everyone, it's your girl Dynasty.
And I'm Charles.
And welcome to Mental Health in the Hood. And this is the Mental Health Show.
Good job.
All right. So welcome to season 3. This season is all about mental health and relationship goals. This is episode 2. And the topic for today is relationship insight from a relationship coach perspective. So we do have a special guest here today. We have Yusef, so we're going to clap it up for Yusef.
Hey, Yusef, how you doing, brother?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we want to welcome Yusef to the show. He's a personal friend of mine. He's a coach of mine. He's also the CEO of Timeless Group, which I am a part of. He's a leader in the community. He's a leader for YW Consultants. He's also a married man who has a wife. And he has also brought a lot of inspiration in my life and a lot of people's lives in the community. So everybody clap it up for Yusef Wiley.
All right. That was a great introduction. I like that introduction. All right. So let's not forget about the shout out to celebration.
Yes, we can't forget about the shout out to
celebration.
celebration.
We always got to show people love. That's what this word is about, is love. So we want to thank all the previous guests who watched episode 1 with mental health and singleness with a few of our mental health professionals. I hope you guys liked it. Hope it gave you some insight and gave you some perspective and helped to encourage you. We also want to thank everybody who attended our last Zoom meetup talking about mental health and goal setting. We hope that you guys were able to create professional and personal and mental health goals, which is highly important. And we also want to thank everyone for following, liking, subscribing, and following our page. We really appreciate the support during this time. Okay, so relationship goals. This season is not about trying to tell people what the standard of dating is. There's people who come from all walks of life, from different cultures, ethnicities, and we do not want to basically say the standard of what dating or relationships could be. This season is about giving you guys insight, raising awareness, ending the stigma. We also want to not normalize things that should not be normalized, and we want to just create more healthy boundaries and relationships with the people around us. So we hope that today you get some insight. You're able to take these things and kind of figure out which ways that you want to grow with the people around you in your life. So we can get started with the interview question. So I have the first one, and I'm very excited about this question. So we'll get started with that. So Yusef, here we go. Can you share with everyday people what relationship goals mean to you as a relationship coach professional?
At the beginning, at the onset of any relationship, you have to figure out what are mutual growth goals that we have together that we can focus on. Because if it's too much leaning towards my goal versus my partner's goal, then there's going to be a problem. So I think, because you can always have your personal goals, right? Individually. So I think when you're talking about goal setting as a couple, those goals should be focused on something that you guys mutually agree upon. So that's where it should start. We all mutually agree to have this type of financial stability. We both mutually agree to have this type of fun, our home, our household, etc. So I think it's very important that that's a mutual exchange when you're talking about goals, and that it's not related to something that he or she or one partner has over the other. That's what a mistake at the beginning happens. So
yeah, that's a good answer. For me, when I look at it too as well, is that you have it. I think that's kind of hard, Yusef, because it's like you're trying to get two to agree up on something, and we both probably feel a different way. And so do you feel like there's certain things that we can do to make our partner feel comfortable, where he or she understands that it's not just all about me, it's about us for the goal of us?
Yeah, that's what a give and take is at. So I think just give an example of for like a children, like if you're starting a new relationship and children are going to be involved, or whether you bringing children into the relationship or you plan to have children, you may not both agree on how many, right? So that's a good start, because that's a big decision, right? Big goal to have children, and or likewise a house. Are we going to be in an apartment for 10 years, or are we going to buy a home, or things like that? So it's not really that hard. I think two a couple or a partner can decide, like, hey, I do agree with that. You're gonna find things in commonality, or else y'all wouldn't have came together in the first place,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
You came together for some reason, right? Y'all seen where y'all get along and have the similarities and ideas. That's why you're together. So it wouldn't make sense. Right?
Yeah, just trying to create a win-win situation.
Right, exactly.
We wouldn't even be talking about relationship goals if we wasn't in the relationship.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
Okay. So that brings me to my next question for you, Yusef.
Okay.
So my next question is, what are the 3 elements that are most important in building a healthy relationship?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. A healthy relationship. First of all, I would say this, and I think sometimes we don't always consider this part, is making sure that you're having fun. Don't forget fun, because I think a lot of times the relationships get bad, or they get out of place, or they start going bad because we forget the fun part. We forget about having fun.
Right.
So everything is so strict and rigid. Like the entire relationship becomes about over scrutinizing each other, your partner, and making sure you holding up your end and he's holding up his, that kind of thing. So I think when you lose that sense of having fun in a relationship, that's a mistake. So I think that element has to be there, having fun, deciding to have fun within the relationship. And it could be goofing off. It could just be in the bedroom fun. It could be going out fun. It could be, whatever, right? Another element I would say is communication, of course. You definitely have to have the communication of very high level of communication, to the point of whenever you're separated and there's a change and something that may happen when you leave the house, there should be communication. Example, when you leave the home, you separate and one partner goes this way, the other partner goes that way. But when y'all left, I was going to work, you were going to the grocery store. If that changes, there should be communication. Right. That's how serious that is. Wow. I think it should be communication. So if I decide, I'm not going to work, I'm going to go by my buddy's house instead, or I'm going to go jogging, right, instead of going straight to work, that should be communicated. Look how easy that can create a relationship problem, is when somebody see you in traffic and they see your wife later on. They say, I didn't see him at work at that time. Didn't you say he was at work? He was out jogging. Right. What you was doing out there jogging? I thought you was going straight to work. Right. What would have fixed that? What would have fixed that though? Communication. Right. So if there was a change on your way, get on the phone and call and say, hey, we got cell phones now, right? No excuse. Yeah. Send a text message. Hey, babe, I'm not going straight to work. I'm actually going to jog first. Right. Wow. That eliminates that right there.
That makes a big difference.
So I think we underestimate the level of communication that we should be having. So that's 2. And then the third, I would say, is basically being transparent with each other in terms of how you truly feel. Right? Yeah. I think sometimes we don't, because we don't want problems, we don't want to debate, we don't want to argue, so we're not transparent. We just stay quiet. Yeah. We don't say anything. Right. So I think transparency is very key. Not holding things in can create a big problem in a relationship. So those are 3 elements I think can do magic in a relationship if it's done well and constantly. So
I really like the communication and transparency piece, because you still have people that may communicate, but they're not really honest or transparent with what they're trying to communicate.
Right.
If they feel some type of way, or if they disagree with what you're saying, if they don't feel comfortable that certain family members is coming over, or I don't want to go there because of X, Y, and Z. Yes. And then it when you don't communicate, then all it does is leave confusion. Right. And there shouldn't be no confusion. Right. But sometimes that does happen when people don't communicate.
And I think because we have that fear, like I said, we don't want that disagreement. We don't want to argue. But that argument might be needed, because that's going to make the relationship stronger, because now each partner knows how they can do better. You know what I'm saying? They know, like you said, that family member that's going to be there. That other partner is going to remember that next time, right? So it's going to improve the overall situation with time. With time, that's only going to get better. Because you communicated.
And I agree with you. And I think sometimes too is like what happened in relationships is that it's hard to find that balance, because you got on one end, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And then you have on the other end, which guys do, we shut down.
Yeah.
You know, we
Right.
shut down and there's
Yeah.
no communication.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that doesn't help the situation. But I like what you said. Sometimes it's good to have a healthy argument
Mm-hmm.
Right.
because it gives you the opportunity to come with solutions. It gives you the opportunity to see what the other person is feeling.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then we also have to be good listeners too, as well.
Right. And I think you just have to, both have to be humble. Both sides have to be humble about the situation, or it'll continuously be an argument, because you want to get past the argument phase of it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of, being humble and understanding where each are coming from. So the respect is needed there too. So
Okay.
you have to have respect.
That makes sense. That
So
makes
is
a lot of
arguing considered healthy?
It can be.
Depending on.
It can be.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think arguing is with, as long as there's facts involved in the conversation and not just feelings alone,
sense.
then that's when it's important.
I think that's hard because women speak from an emotional standpoint.
Right.
I don't think we was raised no other way but to be emotional. That's how we connect. I think it's powerful that a woman can feel. That's already something. But
Right.
when you have men that come from more of like a logical or
Yes.
or they shut down or they don't have that or they don't come from that family background of learning how to communicate, it's like you teaching them something they've never been taught. So then
Right.
it's like I get the part where it comes with time, but how long does that time? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, you should
know,
ask. One of you out of the partners should encourage each other to produce facts. That should be said throughout the course of the conversation, the argument. Please, what are the facts? Explain. Please give me some. What are the details? Sometimes we don't give enough detail,
Right.
and we need to give details. What
Right.
are the details? Give me some facts. I need some details. And we might get mad just saying that, right?
Right.
Somebody, your
Yeah.
partner might get mad at you because you said, give me more details or more facts. But over time, that gets better. You realize that, it is important to give the details. It is important to relay the facts. And
So
then you'll
through
see it's beneficial.
So through that communication,
Mhm.
it's very important that we use I statements. Like,
Yes.
I feel this way because.
Mhm.
Not just,
Yes.
oh, I'm mad. Because
Yes.
a lot of people do that.
Right.
I'm mad.
Right.
And they don't
Right.
really say what they really are mad about.
Right. We don't
Right.
give the details. You just don't. You just say I'm mad. You say I don't like that, or like what? What is it? Always think about details. Think about details when you have a conversation.
So fun,
Yeah.
communication,
Mhm.
and transparency.
Yeah.
All right.
Great answer,
Okay.
man. Great answer. That's a great answer.
All right. The third question. What roles do both men and women play in building a healthy relationship?
Shoot. I mean, I'm gonna say this. The first thing that jumps out at me with that question is number one, honesty. Right. We both have to bring honesty to the table. But another real key part to that is having principles and values that each stands on. So that could be your faith, your religious faith. That could be some people. I don't push religion on anybody or faith,
Right.
but it could be if you follow the practices or principles of Buddhism, right? Any type of value structure or centerpiece that allows you to pull from a sense of values, So if you have values, it allows you to kind of have some level of foundation. If neither of the partners bring that to the table, then it's going to be lopsided, right? Because it's so easy for one side to be dishonest, to be not truthful, to operate on a unbalanced perspective, right? But when you have values, whether they're religious or otherwise,
Right.
it allows you to stay within that. You know what? I'm going to stay truthful. I'm going to stay honest. This is it right here.
Right.
So both have to bring that to the table. I think that's critical.
Do you feel like, since the pandemic
Mhm.
and everybody has been like close knitted in the house, people lost their jobs.
Right.
People are seeing each other more. Usually when
Right.
people had jobs and things out there, you probably never see your spouse or
Right.
see your girlfriend
Yeah.
or your boyfriend or something like that. So
Mhm.
now y'all together, and it's creating a lot of emotion
Mm-hmm.
and unstableness.
Right.
And in order to have some values, how do we connect back to that? Like, when you so used to not being so close to your partner, now all these emotions and y'all colliding.
Well, let me take from my playbook, I guess, if you could say. One of the things I've done since the pandemic is I found more things to do indoors, and part of that is gifts, bearing gifts, for the whole family. I'm constantly coming home with gifts or bearing gifts, ordering stuff on Amazon, right? But I'm constantly bearing gifts. That's one aspect, from at least from a financial standpoint. But the other part of that is taking on more responsibility in the household, because typically if we're out and going about our day and working and things like that, if one of the partners is not home and the other one is out working more, and then you're not able to do as much. So I think taking on more responsibility inside the house could create a sense of stability, a sense of what, I like this person, right? Because they're showing me something different, right? It ain't just going back and forth, leaving home, going to work every day. That's change. We're indoors.
Right.
So I think showing more of you, showing what you're capable of is important. So I think that's the key during this pandemic, to show that I can actually do more. I can actually build a fireplace or something, right? Or whatever. You know what I mean? I could paint a wall, or I can, I could show you I could dance a little bit. I could show you I like music. I could things that you don't normally do on a regular basis. So I think that's important.
So when it comes to the roles, I have a good question about this, because when I think about roles, I think about gender norms. And I think that gender norms play like a good way in relationships, because I think that we kind of used to the tradition where women are the stay at home, and fathers are and men are the ones that go out and are the breadwinners. But now you have women who are working, men who are working. And so how does that work, in terms of when we say roles, how does that play with gender norms with our roles?
Well, I think now in today's time, it's definitely changed, like you point out. That I do believe in the traditional norms of the female, not necessarily staying home, but I feel like that option should be there. That she can stay home, because women still get pregnant too, right? So if she needs to stay home, she can stay home. So I think that needs to be there. But with that change, I think it's important that we and number one, embrace it, because I think part of the problem comes when we don't embrace it. So I don't think it's really an issue with adjusting to that change, where both have a shared responsibility. I think the problem comes when we are sticking with it. You know what? I still want you to cook. You work 12 hours, I work 12 hours sometimes, but I still need you to cook. That attitude and behavior has to change, right? That part has to change. So even though I would appreciate it, that has to change. So I think that compromise comes in, and that ability to, share additional responsibility that normally would be mostly on the female, if you want to look at it that way. If she has the more, I don't like to say passive role, but the more, like you said, gender identified role in cultures and the norms, culture norms. But we just have to share the responsibility. Sometimes a man needs to get up and cook the breakfast, right? Or
wash the dishes.
You wash the dishes. That's something that I do regularly. I actually wash the dishes more than my wife, right? So,
I just want to know, because I know we live in a different world. So you have some women that do have that option to stay at home, but you have some women who may not, who may have the option and don't know they have the option. So I think just having the option, knowing that you have to share the responsibility. All right.
And making adjustments.
Making adjustments.
Adjustments, that's everything. To make adjustments. Can I borrow this from you, young lady?
Let me give you a piece of paper. You can't just take my clipboard.
They might have to be the one to take the kids to school. Put the car seat in, let's switch our cars and drive the kids to school,
Okay, now I'm going to move on to question 4, right?
Okay.
Now this one I feel like is a critical one, right? It's more educational as far as trying to figure things out. So the next question is, what roles do agreements and disagreements play in relationship when it comes to compromising with your partner?
Compromising with your partner.
Compromising with your partner. Thank you.
Well, man, that's a tough one. But let me say this though, I it's interesting when you really look at the psychology of human beings, right? It's really interesting actually. Is that agreement and disagreement? A major percentage of agreements and disagreement is egotism or egoism.
That's true.
It's not necessarily I won't do something versus I have a principle against doing something. it has nothing. It rarely has to do with any of those things. You're making me do something against my religion, because those are reasonable disagreements that I'm not going to do something. I'm not going to bend on,
Yeah.
right? But usually disagreements have nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah.
So what is it? It's egoism, right?
Right.
It has nothing to do with it. So it goes back to what I originally said about having values, having faith, having certain principles that you adhere to, being humble and being patient. All of those things, those values, right? If you possess those values, those agreements and disagreements are going to be less. It's going to be less. You're going to see them show up a lot less, right? So the bottom line is you have to be able to identify when it's the ego that's causing you to flare up when there's a disagreement.
Exactly.
Because you think about some of the disagreements that you have with folks.
Yeah.
It ain't have nothing to do with any merit or any, it's just your ego got a little injured.
And sometimes we can just be flat out stubborn.
Stubborn,
pride.
pride.
So can we define ego for some people who may not know what that is or what that looks like?
Well, ego is, I like to say it this way. It's the I in everything. In other words, I don't see nobody else.
I like that.
It's the I in everything, meaning, hey, I don't even see your position because it's only about me. That's egoism, and when you only see myself in it, and I don't see no impact on the person, then it's ego, right?
That's true.
But when you're able to see my decision and my agreement or disagreement impact the person next to me, and I empathize with that, then it's not ego. So ego is an absence of that.
Like
so it happens all the time.
Right. And like they say, it's no I in team. If you in a relationship, in a marriage, it's we. It's not no I. So that makes a lot of sense. So that brings me.
I have a question. I have another question. This one
I
is kind
see you over there
of
smiling. Yeah, I see you over there smiling. So
I think I'm trying to think about myself, too, in this situation. Because when we say what roles do agreements and disagreements play, I think that I'm stubborn. So, with that being said, it takes me a minute to get to the other side of somebody else.
Okay.
So I usually put myself this is how I move. I'm not altering, I'm not adjusting, and I think that's my ego first because that's what I'm used to. If a person is not patient and if they don't understand women, they'll take that and their ego gets involved. Versus okay, Dynasty's a little bit different. Let me be a little bit patient and explain to her the why. I'm asking her to do this or why I want her to be a part of it. And I feel like if a person doesn't do that, tell me the why. Some people feel like I shouldn't have to explain to you all the time why. Right. So I think when you're dealing with somebody that's stubborn, I think that it can always be a lot of disagreement, especially if you used to doing things your way, especially if you've been single for 2-3 years and now you get in a relationship with somebody that's either never been in a relationship or used to being in one. So it's a lot of people stuck in their habits and their ways. And I think that's the part where it's not as easy when it comes to agreements and disagreements. Because then it's the person takes it personal, you're not hearing what I'm saying or you're not listening versus no, this is a personal problem that I have,
Yeah, some people it's innate. They either you were born, you was trained, through your upbringing to have this innateness of, humility and empathy and things like that. Or in compassion, but many of us don't. So it's really difficult to see other people, right? You only see yourself in a space. Yeah. When you walk into a bedroom, let me give you an example. Walk in the bedroom, you looking at a new place, right? How often do you walk in that bedroom and say, oh, my partner is going to really love this.
Right.
It's what I like. You going in there saying, oh, I really like the floors. I like the paint on the ceiling.
Yeah.
That's you only see you.
Yeah.
You don't see. What about your partner?
Yeah.
They got to live there with you, right?
Yeah.
But we always look at us what we think first.
Yeah.
It's the first impression is you. Yeah. When you walk in there and you see the floors, I like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, oh man, my partner really loved this color. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? You just made me think about something too.
We also have that too.
Yeah, what's that?
With father and daughter relationships as well, with disagreements and agreements.
Yeah,
not in a negative way, meaning your age and your perspective, and then my age and my perspective, and then but now that you've been around me more, we'll end up coming back and being like, you know what, I thought about it. I do agree.
Exactly.
But at first, it was kind of like, I'm the dad,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm the daughter. I've been out here on my own figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right.
And then now it's like, instead of us going against each other, we notice that we still on the same side.
Yeah.
Right.
I think people forget when they disagree or agree that I'm still on your side. It's just that the actual situation I don't agree with.
Sometimes we need to ask each other what brought us to that perspective, too.
Yeah.
Like, what brought you to that conclusion, or what brought you to that perspective, so that you can get a deeper insight on why that person disagreed with you.
Yeah.
So
that's nice. And one point I want to make is that when we talk about the ego too, listen, because it's real though.
Stuck on the ego.
Because I'm gonna tell you something. Because a lot of times that we be judgmental of our partner. Like we can say to ourselves, okay, I make more money.
Yeah.
Oh, I do more. Right. So I'm the one that should be making all the decisions. Right. And that's not right when it goes to your partner in a relationship, because that feeds into your ego. Like you bring more to the table, so your empathy is out the window, and your partner becomes less worth.
Look, let me add to that with you. Since you're on ego,
Okay.
let me say this though. It's a trip, because both in Buddhism and Sufism, which is a mysticism of Islam, something that I practice, it talks about losing yourself in a situation. Meaning, don't always see yourself in something. Always see others first. Right? So literally losing yourself in a scenario. If you lose yourself in something, then it's going to force you to have to see somebody else's view or perspective. So you have to sometimes do that. Right? But that's a value, right? That's a value. If you don't follow that value, guess what? More disagreement.
Exactly.
I think that I really think, when I think about, because I'm hearing you from relationships, I think people also need to know that can happen between a sibling. It can happen between your mom and your dad and your mom, or it just have to be just in a relationship. It's dealing with people, period.
Yeah. Yusef Wiley, y'all. I got one more question for you, man. This is just these conversations.
My dad really asking questions for himself.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure out his relationship.
We all get coached up here. Yusef coaching to the everyday people out here, and we also learning something too. Sparked a little something to you too.
Right.
All right, I got
this next question.
Okay, we got one more question. All right. What are the most valuable ingredients that would help to build a long-term relationship? What are the most valuable ingredients that will help build a long-term relationship?
Right. Well, I think some of it was covered. I mean, in some of the early things that were said about values and things like that. I mean, I really, it's going to take me back to that, building faith and values. You have to have values, because that's only going to, because if you don't have them, your relationship is only going to be based on infatuation, sex, and things of that nature, right? But if you have values, it allows you, and you hold to those values and principles, just like the principle and values of being married. Just the people that believe in the institution of marriage are people that hold those values, right? So without values, that's one of the ingredients. I have to add that as one of the ingredients. But also, I would say, definitely you have to have structure. You have to have structure. If you have no structure, you just willy-nilly it and whatever, you know what I mean? No discipline, you have to have structure. But structure comes as a response or as a result of discipline. So if you have discipline, you can form structure. And structure allows longevity, allows you to keep going. Because if you just, run out and do what you want to do, buy things, don't have no kind of discipline about credit cards, because this stuff is important in a household, right? In a family structure. So structure is key to a long term, because now, just think of the term itself, structure. A house, structure, right? It lasts years, 30 years, 40 years, right? It has longevity. So without structure, what? You're going to be moving from tent to tent. You see what I mean? Because tents blow away, right? So you need structure if you expect things to last. That's the bottom line. And that's something that comes with some of your previous questions of compromise, agreement, all of that. That's building that structure. And as those goals, right, that you talked about, that you've set, that's building that structure. All of that is going towards building that structure. So it's actually a good question as far as a final question, because that kind of builds the whole thing based on the previous questions that's already been asked.
And I think that structure also sets that foundation. Because I think a lot of people, when they go through tough times, I think we all will in any relationship, sometimes we forget where we started and what we built. And sometimes we just throw it all away, and we forget that we had a foundation. We were happy at a point in time. We did have something. So let's try to go there and look at our value system and figure that out. Because I feel like a lot of couples may not create value systems for each other, and what that looks like. And some people, I think a lot of people don't have a lot of empathy either, which I think is an important ingredient, because empathy is basically you stepping in somebody else's shoes.
Right.
And I think that men and women with the gender norms and societal pressures and expectations, I think it always gets skewed because people don't know the role that they play within that foundation or even how to get there.
Right.
You know, so
and another thing too is just the fact, even under structure, right?
Yeah.
When we lack structure, then we allow other people to come in our households and run it.
Who's in charge of that structure?
That's it's both of y'all
Two
should be in
people?
charge. Yeah, because think about it. If we lack structure in the household, right? Then you have your outside entities that comes in, which can be family members. You know what I mean, from both sides. You know what I mean, making decisions, being influenced in your head, making decisions in your household, and then you lose.
Just like a wolf see weaknesses.
Exactly.
So I mean, when you see a weakness, a wolf, you're only gonna go where they see a break in the flock. You know what I'm saying? So you got to have that structure or keep the wolves away.
Man, that's great, man. This whole insight that you brought today to the everyday people. You know, I mean, it's very, very valuable because we have been through a lot in this past year, and you know, just to be able to have some healthy thoughts, healthy conversations, it helps you. You know what I mean? Because we normally don't have these conversations. We normally have the conversations of what we don't have in our lives instead of trying to gain some things to put in our lives to make our situations more better.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's really what it's all about, is that we just want to raise awareness. You know, I think that these conversations are very necessary but difficult. And I think that the same type of way that we're kind of having these conversations, you can have these conversations with your siblings, with your friendships, with your relationships. It can be used universal. So you don't have to just think this has to be with your partner or significant other. It can be used interchangeably. So I hope that you guys were able to gain some perspective from Yusef today and be able to kind of set some things up in your life. So Yusef, before we close out, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing in terms of relationship and, you know, how you became a guest today?
Well, well, I mean, you know, I've been married going on 9 years now. You know, one woman since I came home, you know, formerly incarcerated. Did a lot of studying and training before my release, and I had my mind dead set on being married when I was released. So I was married a month after I was released, and been with the same woman. We have a son together, and it's just, I think, you know, I built a lot through that. Did a lot of coaching even before then. I mean, I think I was a coach before I even did the training to become a coach. You know, and then later joining the John Maxwell team platform and becoming a coach, and then later, you know, with YW Consultants and the building a nonprofit organization, Timeless Group. And, you know, me and Charles, we go way back, you know what I'm saying? This is my boy. And, you know, we both come a long way, come from similar backgrounds in the community, in the hood, right?
In the hood, exactly.
So, and, you know, had to grow. And, you know, I hope that answers some of that. I try not to inflate, you know, a whole lot, you know what I mean? It's all about just, you know, doing what I got to do as a human being and just trying to be responsible. That's what it's about.
And you have a book out, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the book, actually, my book is called If I Knew Then. Yeah. So, you know, the idea of when we were in the hood, right? If I knew then, I probably wouldn't have made the mistakes that I made. But, you know, they were necessary to land me in the place that I am now. Yeah. And you can find that book on Amazon or what have you, or my Instagram account or what have you. So, yeah.
And then Yusef, man, he's all action. You know, you see, he really don't like to say too much about himself, but he's really all action. He have helped a whole lot of people out here in the communities, and I'm grateful that you came on the show today, man. We really appreciate that. You know, really appreciate that, my brother.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we're gonna close out with some final announcements. All right, so the next Zoom meeting is scheduled Wednesday, January 20th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and of course 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can always find that information on our social media pages at Mental Health in the Hood. And then additional to that, episode 3 is scheduled for Sunday, January 31st at 9 o'clock a.m. Please make sure you check it out. The topic will also be provided on our social media accounts. And the next call to action group workout is going to be scheduled for February 7th at 10 o'clock a.m. And we will have the location and more details for that actual workout group coming soon. So how to support us is what you're doing now. Watching, following, subscribing, sharing and spreading the word, because that is powerful. And just letting people know how much this show has impacted you or helped you. And then also remember to subscribe, because we can't do this work without you. We're trying to get to as many subscribers as we can to help heal and support people from all across the world and walks of life. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, everyday people.
All right.